When we think about health, we often picture an emergency room, a dramatic, last minute rescue when things go terribly wrong. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? What if the best way to improve health is to stop people from ever needing a rescue in the first place? Well, today, we're going upstream to find out. This analogy just gets right to the heart of the whole issue. I mean, can you imagine that feeling? The sheer exhaustion. You're pulling person after person from this raging river, and it feels like a crisis that will never ever end. Now, it's heroic work for sure, but you know it's a losing battle. You're only treating the symptom, not the actual cause. At some point, the only smart thing to do is to stop, look up that river, and ask a totally different question. Hey, why do so many people keep falling in? And that's really the core idea here. We've become incredibly good at the dramatic downstream rescue. The high-tech surgeries, the emergency interventions. But we're so focused on that, we almost never look upstream. What if the real solution isn't about being a more heroic rescuer, but about being a better engineer? What if we could just fix the broken bridge? So let's start where our healthcare system usually does, right in the middle of that frantic downstream rescue. This is the world of immediate problems, where the crisis is loud, it's urgent, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. So in public health, this kind of reactive approach actually has a name. It's called tertiary prevention. This is all the critical work that happens after a disease has already taken hold. We're talking about managing the illness, reducing disability, and trying to minimize suffering. Think of it like throwing a life preserver to someone who's already in the water. It's absolutely vital, but by its very nature, you're always one step behind. Right, so to really change the game, we have to change our perspective. It's time to leave that chaotic riverbank behind and start making our way upstream to find out what's really going on. And this slide, it really lays out the whole journey for us. See, down at the bottom, that's tertiary prevention, the downstream rescue we've been talking about. Now, move a little further upstream, and you've got secondary prevention. This is all about early detection, catching a problem before it becomes a full-blown crisis, like screening for high blood pressure. But if you go all the way to the source, that's where you find primary prevention. This is about stopping the problem before it even begins, things like vaccinations or building healthier communities. This is fixing the broken bridge. So the takeaway here is actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. The earlier we can act, the better the outcome. It's just that simple. We can prevent a ton of suffering and save a ton of resources. It's a complete shift in mindset, moving away from just fighting sickness to actively building health from the ground up. And really, that's the whole point of public health. Okay, let's make this a little more real with an example. Say someone has a TIA, which is sometimes called a mini stroke. A doctor might prescribe antiplatelet therapy right away. That's a perfect example of secondary prevention. You're jumping in to stop the disease from progressing before a massive, life-altering stroke can happen. But once a major stroke has happened, the focus shifts to tertiary prevention. Things like comprehensive stroke rehab programs designed to help that person manage the long-term effects and get back as much of their life as possible. But what happens after that person has been pulled from the river? I mean, even when that tertiary prevention, that rescue, goes perfectly, the story isn't over, not even close. Because just surviving isn't the same as truly living again. And that brings us to the huge difference between these two strategies. Over on the left, the curative strategy is really focused on one thing, controlling the disease. The main goal is just survival. But the rehabilitative strategy on the right, it has a much, much bigger goal, achieving optimal functioning. It's about looking at the whole person in their own environment and helping them thrive, not just putting their diagnosis under a microscope. The World Health Organization has this really powerful word for it, functioning. And as you can see, it's about so much more than just whether your body parts are working correctly. It's about what you can do. It's about how you can participate in your own life. For a stroke survivor, it's not just about getting some movement back in an arm. It's about being able to cook a meal for themselves again, or being able to hug a grandchild. That is the real goal of modern rehabilitation. Now, achieving that optimal functioning, well, it's not something one doctor or one therapist can do on their own. It takes a whole team, a dedicated collaborative team with all sorts of different expertise. And leading that team is a special kind of doctor you might not have even heard of, a physiatrist. These are physicians who specialize in physical medicine and rehabilitation. Their whole focus is on restoring function. You can think of them as the architect of the entire recovery plan. They look at the whole person, their medical issues, their personal goals, their home environment, to build a roadmap for getting life back on track. And of course, the physiatrist doesn't work in a vacuum. They lead a whole team. You've got physical therapists for mobility, occupational therapists for daily activities, speech pathologists for communication, rehab psychologists for emotional recovery. It's this whole network of experts, social workers, nurses, dietitians, all working together with the patient and their family toward one single shared goal. So let's kind of bring these two big ideas together now. Moving upstream is all about preventing the fall in the first place. But for those who do fall in, the goal can't just be to pull them from the water. It has to be about helping them rebuild a full, meaningful life on the other side. And make no mistake, the need for this is absolutely staggering. Just in the UK, there are 1.3 million people living with the long-term effects of a stroke. That's like the entire population of a major city. This isn't some small niche problem. It's a massive public health challenge that just proves why both preventing the fall and providing amazing rehab are so incredibly critical. So we're going to end right where we started, back at that river. As we think about the future of healthcare, this is the one question we all really have to ask ourselves. Are we putting our energy, our money, and our best ideas into building stronger bridges and safer paths? Or are we just getting more and more efficient at pulling people out of the water one by one forever? The answer to that is going to define the health of all of us for generations to come.